Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayor of Abbotsford to bring the RCMP in and forensic audit the city books. You know, I've made many podcasts that my life was targeted, not by gangs or by people that you owe debts to, or a random mistaken identity. This target was purposely done by the former mayor, Henry Braun. He left the city of Abbotsford, came out in his Lexus car, used his car to try to kill me, and by luck, I fell between the truck and the trailer and my life was spared. It was the Abbotsford top police officers that are his personal friends. Wouldn't charge him, wouldn't go and take witnesses' reports. And then, to make everything worse, under their uniform, they started to stalk me and threaten me so I wouldn't come forward. Henry used his ties to Vicky Hopes to block it in the newspaper that the mayor was involved in a hit and run to rig the election to load ROSS Siemens. Then he used Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung. Abbotsford owes the Mission RCMP a tremendous thanks. When I went to them, they knew right now the evidence was overwhelming and how many filthy, dirty officers there were. There's a myth going around when you're in police and you're the special agents and you're on a task force, you can't be fired or charged. And that they got this myth that they're always propped up in the general public that we need that shit. This one is over the top. This one went way too far. It was Henry's personal friends, like Keelan Olenoff, said drop a video and a lawsuit. Today I'm on Cooper's Farm. I'm running for your mayor. There was 3,000 people that got blocked in Cooper's Farm, and they rigged the decision. Today I wanted to explain how they rigged the decision. Henry Braun took council up to his farm on Downs. And the mayor and council are not allowed to be together. It's called collaborating. They rigged the decision over the general public. Sandy Blue. You had Patty Ross that you can see her hanging with Henry. Henry wants this old lady to do another term, and I'll tell you why. And then other councillors, you had ROSS Siemens and you had Dave Sidhu. They ran their signs on Polygon's job site for the developer. Well, other candidates weren't allowed to run their signs here. Barty Sandhu wasn't, Les Barkman wasn't, Troy Gasper wasn't, Manji Soy, Mr. Pelican, none of them were. Now, when they got in, they owed the developer to help them get it over the general public, rigging the decisions. And this is why Henry, when he rigged the decision, and he said, the housekeeping of Peter Speranese did it, making it look like Peter Speranese took a bribe from Polygon over the Abbotsford residents. 3,000 people signed the petition, and Vicky Hopes wrote a little article for Henry. There was only a few signed up. City staff made sure that I had the city report of how many extra people at the city were put on overtime to accommodate the fluctuation at the city auditorium. Henry Braun has to load the council and mayor this term again. You saw I showed you his insider trading. I showed you Dave Sidhu's property on Tracy Road. Dave's a sitting council. He lifted his dad's piece of property. In order, Dave Sidhu helped ROSS Siemens with the South Asian in his rag newspaper, the Capritra, and his dad was Andy Sidhu, the chancellor of UFB, and he used UFB to block and threaten me so Ross could win. Now, and I went around town and I showed you all the properties that Darren Braun, Blue Sky, Darren Braun, Henry's son, owns and is bringing to development. Darren Braun went in the city. He used the city's intel and its information to take which piece of properties they're zoning and how fast he could get them through, and he made the lift off of them, and the city council will vote it through for Henry's son every given time. It's insider trading. Darren should not be doing business anywhere from 5 to 10 years in the city, knowing that, the same as a mayor and a council. They took advantage off the city lift and off the intel of the city. Well, Henry knew when his son had opened his mouth bragging how rich he was going to get off all this, Henry knew that now it would go to the general public, and I wasn't scared to put it on social media. He used his personal friends at the Abbotsford Police Office And this is why Mike Sir covered his attempted murder, because Henry now would be charged and he'd be before his courts and he'd pull everything down. So they figured that they were going to do him a favor. They were going to use the police not to take witnesses, take reports, pull cameras, and help Henry Braun. They were buddies. Then they were going to use the police and say, you know, oh, nobody can come after the police. These filthy men went in and hijacked their uniform and their position. Then they used that company for Henry Braun to go and threaten Councillor Mogale with the task force when he was running, because Henry wanted the city. Pierre Poilievre, when I had spoke to him at Clark Freightways, knew right away. He said the Mennonites are running the town of Abbotsford. He called them the M&Ms, the Mennonite mobs. And if you go, you can see how they're setting themselves all up. It's a Mennonite little clique. You can see how Ed was involved with it. You can see how they make Brad Viss go and lobby for them, and how Brad Viss endorses liberals and he won't be behind Suk Mangel. I'm running for your mayor, and I'm encouraging other councillors to run. I encourage Suki Dami to run. I encourage Gurpreet Rai. I encourage everybody to put their name forward. If we're going to change this town, we have to open the city books of all the pieces of land that Henry headhunted, and the 4 and 5 pieces of parcels, and what he was doing. I showed you the 71 million missing out of Barrowtown by Jake's contracting on my farmers, how they hauled sand in, hauled sand out. I showed you ROSS Siemens took his gas station, he knocked it down and he dumped it in another municipality in the aquifer where the fishes and farmers, because he didn't want to pay the leverages of disposal, and Henry was blackjacking them. I showed you the Mackenzie Bog, how people got deadly sick. I showed you, he used taxpayers' money to haul the rocks down in front of Ron Funk, which is Henry's partner of Diverse, to change the zoning from 200 to 455. They penned it in over the general community. This is what they were doing for the general community. I showed you Ron Funk running ROSS Siemens' signs. I told you I was in his office with his staff, and they said, we got it under good thing. We really need Rob for the plan. But what Abbotsford was lacking was a police force. The Abbotsford garbage, trash, the shit, the manipulation, yeah, they could prop themselves up in the press. But they couldn't function under the body of law because they were friends. Then Henry ordered them out to smash my cameras, smash my phones. The RCMP were worried about my safety. Of why is a police force attacking an individual at this level? They could search, the RCMP could search my history through their database. I let them have that opportunity and said, no, come on. I mean, there's people in life that got good standings between you, the Queen, and the King. I mean, why are they doing that? Then I had to foreclose to the RCMP for my safety of why they were doing it. I was standing in front of the development signs that I learned off of developers years ago of Henry rigging the decision. His son is the applicant. His son is bringing it, and how they were taking the lift. Henry was tied to David Eby, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to explain how he was tied to Eby, and this is how he could get Pam to pull out the Riverside and all this. Bob Rich was hired by David Eby to clean David Eby's bloody mess up. Then Mike Sir went into Surrey after Henry got rid of him, and he got rid of it here. Then we hired Peter Speranese, the city manager, and we got this dumb, bloody police chief, Colin Watson, that only wants the lap dance. Where he wants to go for lap dance rather than go to witnesses and say, yeah, okay, my officer's done for smashing your camera, he's done. Now they're buddy-palling each other in the police station, slapping each other on the ass of how we could do damage control. They can't let me go. I can sniff the cocaine off the streets at night. They brutalized this town. They went after our young youth. They went and made false claims, and nobody was putting them in check, and they believed, well, we were the police. They got out of hand where it no longer was the police, it was the SS of Adolf Hitler's, and they were running wild. They were lying for each other, they were brutalizing our youth, they were using the task force on the South Asian, and they were propping it up under the police, under the police. God forbids if the wrong guy gets the hold of it. If I was a revengeful guy, ladies and gentlemen, and I got a hold of the Abbotsford police, I come in and I start smashing them when they're out of uniforms. Go smash the sergeant in his face. Take all his teeth out. Now stand on the world stage and say we're the police. We can't have that. We got to have the law put back into place, and this is why I went to the RCMP. I want to make sure assholes like Keelan Olenoff and Mike Sir don't get a free pass, and the investigators don't. This was insider trading worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was no longer about the money. It got into organized crime of targeting people. It got into the crime at such a level when people were going to stand forward and speak about it, they were going to threaten them. I did a video yesterday on Trillion, down on Hollinger, and security is ordered now against the against the neighbors when they want to take a picture or report something, to take the license plate by the manager of Trio and phone it in to 911 because of Darren Braun's illegal signs. This was 3,000 people that didn't get to speak because they were rigging the bloody decision. We need to change that. I promised to Abbotsford, never mind the hit and run, but to open the forensic audits of the books. And I promised to Abbotsford residents 3,000 people. Polygon is going to answer to this. And Polygon will sit in the court and tell you that, yeah, they agreed to rig it. Now there's got to be compensation because this is your town. It was no longer a level playing ground for Abbotsford. Henry knew to block the Augustine billionaire so he could bring the job sites and sales to all his. This was a complete elite mob, and what it was missing was the RCMP, and this is why they headhunted the Abbotsford police. And this is why Henry was so tied to David Eby. I told you up in Kamloops, David Eby was going to appoint Henry Braun in Kamloops to get rid of the Kamloops mayor so they could set the same shit up. And this is why Henry Braun would be phoning David Eby on Dave Sidhu's property and all this. I believe Henry would go as far as phoning David Eby and say, I need you to get BC elections to block Mr. Pelican and all candidates are running so I can have them rigged. I'm live, Cooper's Farm, Abbotsford, British Columbia.